What's up? It's Steve Holmes. Let's play some drums. Oh, man. What's up, folks? Steve Holmes, streaming from Los Angeles. We changed the drum room up a little bit, so I spent a lot of time, dialing things in, plugging things, just wrestling with stuff. You guys know. Dealing with gear, right? And after you deal with gear for a while, you just want to just drum, Stuff's falling everywhere. It's a mess. It's crazy. It's a mess in here. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. Let me know how it sounds in here. Just pushing myself to kind of adjust. And you could see like these brain farts I'm having, like trying for fills and reaching for and like missing cymbals and when that happens, I tend to just kind of repeat the thing over and over until like I kind of get it right, But I think I need to lower this guy actually, this crash. So hope everyone's having a great weekend. Let's see what folks are saying here. That last track, by the way, I played was called Floaties, and it was composed. Wow, I remember the guy's first name. It's Sean, and I'll post a link in the comments. It's if you search for Sean and Floaties, I'm sure you'll find it. Pardon me a second. Ugh. Woo! I keep this up, I'm going to start losing the weight that that I need to lose. Oh, man. Yeah, so, wow, the guy's name's Sean, and the song's name is Floaties. It's super fun. I really like that track, actually. I like, the kind of energy that it creates. So let's look at the chat and see what people are saying on the chat. Is this? Yeah, here we go. Boom. Look at this technology. Let's see. Hey, Steve from Poland says Romulus, thank you. Music Time Space on YouTube says good ways to rate change from 16 to 30 seconds. Yeah, I mean that's always a challenge. But we got the click on, and we're doing our best. Ryan Cox says thanks for leaving the supportive comment on my buddy's video. Yes, Ryan, I remember your friend was doing like this thing where he was practicing for like 24 hours straight. That's crazy. And so yes, of course we had to leave a comment for that guy. He had this cool like kind of ambidextrous like Mike Mangini setup where like, the same thing to the right is the same thing to the left, so he could kind of like, hi-hat and ride with each hand. Hey, what's going on? we have a Benny. Let's switch to the laptop camera here. Benny, where are you, Ben? Oh, there you are. Hey, buddy. Here, let's come here. Oh, yes. Sorry, my dog's here. Let's see if we can lift Benny up here amongst all the wires. Come here, come say hi, good boy. Come say hi. Okay. Oh, see, he knows. Okay, it's good boy. Yes. Look, it's Benny. Hey, buddy. Oh, Daddy's all sweaty, so we're cleaning Daddy's ears. I see. Benny, can you give a drum lesson, please? Benny is a Labradoodle. He's the best dog in the world. We love Benny. Say hi to everybody, Benny. Now, I guess now would be a good time to ask for financial support. There's a link in the description that says please support. We don't have a Patreon or anything, but Benny would sure appreciate it. Who's your good boy? Huh? Okay, go see mommy. Good boy, yes. Okay, let's unplug this. Okay. He's looking for things to eat. No, that's not for Benny. Yes, Mommy's trying to call Benny without being on camera. Okay. That was fun. We had a Benny reunion. Benny, go see Mommy. Go see Mommy. Good boy. Yay. All right, I'll be in a bit, okay? Oh, that was fun. We had a little Benny time there. All right, back to chatting here. Yes. Alexander Morgan on YouTube says, great to see you. Thank you, Alexander. It's great to be seen. Great to be alive. Great to be drumming. Great to take advantage of the opportunity to have like all this gear and just share, share drumming information. Ooh. All right. Cheers. Let's see. Could you please share your experience of using different headphones, says Alexander Morgan. Which were the best for practicing? Which were the best for studio and live situations? I'll tell you which ones I didn't have a good experience was. It was those blue, I forget which ones. I forget the model name, but they were made by Blue, and they were like these pro quality studio headphones. And I did not have a good experience for two reasons. The cords that came with those had they have proprietary plugs, so they make it so you can only use their cords to plug in, which I don't like when companies do that. I think that's kind of greedy. And also they broke after the whole point of them is they're like, oh, heavy duty professional headphones and we can wear them all day. And I bought, and literally they physically snapped after a while. So I would avoid the blue ones. Unless, of course, they offer me an endorsement, at which point I'll be glad to. I'm just kidding. Currently, I'm using the Shure in-ear monitors. I've been using these for a while and having a good experience with these. I don't want to show them too much because they're kind of grody right now because obviously they've been in my ears. But these are like the generic Shure in-ear monitors, and I've got them connected to this headphone amp here. And so I'm doing that currently, and it's working. It sounds good, and they're kind of non-obtrusive, and I really like that. They kind of get out of the way, but they sound good, and they serve their purpose without being like this big thing. Having said that, I mean, it's all about just a good mix and a good balance, and being able to hear yourself clearly and hear what you need to hear in order to play comfortably. So if you find something that does that for you, then you win. Kinda, Got these old Vic Firth. Folks remember these Vic Firth headphones that are kind of soundproofing, but you can plug them in, and these kind of serve their purpose. But honestly, if I'm not listening to music and I'm just here playing drums, I've got the old these old studio cans made by Metrophone. Remember these? I actually use these a lot, but I don't plug them in. I just use them for soundproofing. Because the speaker in here is kind of I just use them for sound. They're not very comfortable, to be honest, but that's just because they're old. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that I've been using, and whatever meets your needs. Try different things, and it's so easy to have stuff delivered. It's crazy. I ordered a new microphone stand last night. It was here at 7 a.m. It's just bananas. It was here at 7 a.m. It's bananas how fast we can just get stuff delivered, and it's easy to try a cheapo version of something, Anytime a company makes something that's halfway decent, and Amazon immediately buys them and sells it for cheap. So it's the cheap in-ear, it's easy to try the cheap version of stuff and just see what works for you, So sorry if that answer was not helpful. Let's see. What is your top 5 rudiments and how do you use them on the drum set? Says Omar Shalane Gunonk. Wow, I'm totally butchering your name, Omar. There's a bunch of little dots and stuff on top of it, and my ignorant American brain cannot read it. Top 5 rudiments on the drum set. I don't really have a secret thing. The rudiments that I like are the same rudiments that everyone else likes. I'm a big fan of clean double stroke rolls. It really depends on the subdivision. I find that some stickings and some techniques and rudiments are better for some subdivisions. For example, if you're playing 30-second notes, I'm a big fan of playing paradiddles. But if you're playing 16-note triplets, I tend to just kind of do combinations of singles and double strokes, and so the muscles that you use for each one of those is kind of different because you're kind of cramming in more notes and whatever. But I also really like what I call the drag or the rough, which is kind of eighth note triplets, but diddling the middle one. Let me show that really quick. So if we see, do I have brushes here? I do have brushes. Yay! And I've got a video about this on my YouTube channel, but this is like not a lot. Like no one really milks this sticking and gets the most out of it that you can. But basically, like if you're playing, like hand-to-hand triplets, right? Like 3, 4. Right, and if you start accenting, the first and the last triplet, triplet, that kind of thing. So you end up getting like this swung pattern that sounds like da 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 da, right? So you accent the first and the third triplet, right? Right, but the trick is the cool part is when you double the middle triplet. If you double it and play like the same rate but twice as fast, so like 16-note triplets basically. So instead of dots dot dots dot dot, it's dot 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 dot, right? So here's what that looks like. Right, let me play with sticks. I'll turn off the laptop mic. Right, so that's doing it over top of triplets, kind of super simple, but you can see like the dat do gat do dat. You can really come up with some kind of cool lyrical phrases on that, and that's just over triplets, right? When you play this over top of 16th notes, that's when the fun really begins. So instead of dat get dat dat get dat dat, you're playing it over 16 notes. So it's like chugga diggy chat get dat dat 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 get dat dat, right? It's groups of 3/16, which means it's the dotted eighth value, which means it's 4/3. Right? So for every 3 quarter notes, you're playing 4 even notes, right? Dat get that 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 get that, right? So if you're playing that in 4, you have to keep track of like where 1 is, right? So I'll shut up and I'll just kind of demonstrate what I mean there. So, I mean, you can really get a lot out of that one idea, right? We started playing eighth note triplets with brushes. We accented the first and the third, which gets us that shuffle pattern. Da, 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 da. Then you diddle that middle one. By diddle, I mean you played, twice the amount of notes in the same amount of time, right? You get that quick double going, which is kind of, I talked about doubles and the importance of them, and that's just one example of something cool that you can do with doubles, right? Then you take it to 16th notes, and you end up getting this cool, and once you practice it enough to where you can kind of just turn it on and turn it off, you can create different fills with it, or partial fills. It doesn't have to be like a whole bar of like that one idea. It could be like 2 counts of it, and then for the remaining 2 counts, you can do like something else. The point is to practice this enough and think of it in a musical way, so it becomes like a musical phrase that you can kind of turn on and turn off, based on ideas that you get. Like whatever. You practice enough, you get the freedom, you come up with cool ideas, But someone asked about my favorite, my favorite top 5 favorite rudiments, and that was just one of them, and so let me think other rudiments that we like. I mean, I've been also getting mileage out of like the left-handed paradiddle-diddle, believe it or not, over top of like a 32nd note rate. Para diddle diddle, right? Starting with the left hand. So left, right, left, left, right, right. But that last double right, like you put it on different surfaces and you can get like a cool kind of lick out of that. Let me demonstrate that, right? So we're talking about my favorite rudiments, and I'm just, off the top of my head thinking of rudiments that I've managed to, get a lot of mileage out of, right? So here, let me demonstrate that. So there's another idea of, left-handed paradiddle-diddle. And again, like a lot of folks, they learn a lick in a particular way, and that's the only way that they can play it. And you miss out on a lot of potential ideas if you approach things like that. The idea is to create a phrase that you like. And in this case, like, it's almost like a lyric that I can like sing improvisation, like das, and as long as you understand where, the rhythm falls in relation to the quarter note, and you could sing it in time, then that's like the first step to kind of improvising with it. Das, right? It's left-handed paradiddle-diddle, it's just putting it on different surfaces, but also like the accent is key in there too. That first stroke, da 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 da, and the last double is also the accent, and everything else is quiet. So respecting the intention of the phrase, I like to say, like, what is the intention? That's the intention. And I was doing like a, it's a thing once you start getting comfortable with it, you can, you start to, your brain starts to make variations instead of des, it's like des, that kind of thing. And so that's an extra para, it's an extra, so paradiddle, diddle, paradiddle, but I'm not thinking of it in terms of that at that point. My hands are just going, oh, okay, that kind of thing. That's the goal, is to get to that point where you can just kind of improvise, but you just have to get comfortable with the rudiments and the sticking in order to reach that point. So that's to answer the question, what is your top 5 favorite rudiments and how do you use them on the drum set? I mean, those are 2. I mean, I don't know if I can come up with 3 more. You know, I mean, but that, you know, doing the paradiddle stuff, there were some other paradiddle related things in there. So those are examples of that. And I've talked about this on tons of other videos. Like if folks haven't been to my YouTube channel, there is a ton of free content on there. I would encourage folks to do that. If you click on my name or search for Steve Holmes Drums on YouTube, you know, you'll find my channel. And all these live streams that we've done in the past, they're all still there, pretty much. And I'm actually trying to, you know, I'm taking steps to try to create this website that actually presents all the chapters from my past streams in like a clear list of organized topics, which I think will be really helpful. But it's someone's helping me with it, and you know, they're busy doing other things, which is understandable. So basically, I need to learn web programming and do it myself. Anyways, what's up, folks? It's Steve Holmes. We're streaming live from Los Angeles on September 15th, 2024. We're talking about drums. We're having fun. Cheers. All right, we talked about rudiments. Africa Flat says, good evening and night for all. Okay, Alexander Morgan says, cool music, by the way. What source would you recommend so I could get by loops for Vamp's pieces of music without drums? Man, that's a good question. I have trouble finding loops and music to play to that I enjoy. There's a lot of stuff out there, but I'm kind of picky with you know, the music that I like and music that I want to be seen and heard playing, you know, and that tune that I played. I mean, I play the same like handful of tunes because I can't find, you know, ones that I really like. Louis Palmer has a great, you know, loop pack for drummers. If folks aren't familiar with Louis, definitely check him out. Google him, Louis Palmer. And he's an amazing drummer and has some cool loop packs for drummers. There's some videos on my channel where I'm playing along with this YouTube channel that has this kind of electro, kind of chill music they call, you know, electro chill kind of thing. And it's just this kind of almost like video game music, like 80s, not quite. It's like that kind of vibe. And I have a lot of fun playing along with that stuff. And so if you look on my channel for that, usually there's a link to that channel and there's lots of music on there to play to, you know. I thought about setting up like a 80s yacht rock kit here and playing along to a bunch of like my favorite yacht rock tunes, like just like 4-piece, you know, a 12 and a 16 that are almost identically, you know, that deuce, you know, no real tonal, certainly not a 10-inch, big fat snare, you know, and just do my best, you know, Stan Lynch impression, you know, for a while. See how long I can play yacht rock music without completely like disrespecting it with a bunch of fills and whatever. I thought that would be fun. Christian Lay on YouTube earlier said, please explain the over the bar line beat in the main riff you play. If you're talking about the tune that I played to earlier, that was all just off the cuff playing. I have no idea. Literally, I have no idea what I did in there. But I can speak to the concept of over the bar line, which is kind of interesting. We've talked about that before, but let's talk about it again for folks that are not familiar. When someone says, oh, you know, the fill kind of goes over the bar line, you know, quite simply, like most fills will be, you know, they'll end on the count of one, you know, but if a fill continues over the bar line and into the next bar, like for example, if you have the fill that's like, right? If you continued that fill, excuse me, and played the fill, continued it onto the count of one, it would sound something like this, right? Like, right? So instead of zat doon dega doon ba, it's zat doon dega doon stedada ta, right? So that's just a simple example of playing over the bar line, right? And I'm actually kind of fascinated at there's a couple of pop tunes where you know the drummer kind of got away with doing that. Mick Fleetwood always comes to mind when I talk about playing over the bar line, because he'll do that a lot. You know, he'll be like doon da doon doon da 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 da, you know, that kind of thing, instead of, you know, da da, you know, whatever, like instead of ending right on one. And so that's what playing over the bar line is. Obviously, there's more complex examples of that. The ones that I'm seeing are super simple for the, you know, for the point of explaining what it is. but I don't remember what I played on the last human, so I can't really speak to it. There's a section that is intended to be grooved through, and then there's a section that they tend to like play solo stuff too, and I tend to kind of switch back and forth actually, depending upon how I'm feeling. So that was pretty fun. Let's see, Sarah Faitho on Facebook. Oh, I'm doing the web chat and I'm not on web chat view. Let's do that. Boom. Okay, sorry. Yeah, see, so let's see, Sarah Faitho on Facebook says, yes, Sarah, I appreciate your comment, and I really hope you're doing well. Sarah and I knew each other when we were younger, in junior high and high school. We were in marching band together. Yes, Sarah, really hope you're doing well. It's great that you've chimed in here. I love it. Let's see. The next comment from YouTube, B99DMAR says, Dear Steve, how do you go about composing or arranging drum parts, especially with regard to the balance between technical virtuosity and musical expression? Those things have nothing to do with coming up with drum parts. I'm a drummer streaming from my home, and so I'm playing super busy, you know, and the drum track that I played to is designed for drummers to like blow over. And so these are not examples of like coming up with drum parts. In a real world situation where, you know, I'm in a band or I'm in a studio session and I'm coming up with a drum part for a song, it's absolutely, you know, based on what helps the song you know, do what it's intending to do. What is the song intending to do? You know, and that's a conversation with the composer, but also, you know, your own judgment based on listening and you know, getting a sense of you know, what you think, you know, goes well with the tune, what you think helps the tune. Also, like, what doesn't get in the way, what elevates it when it needs elevation, what brings it back down when it needs to come back down, those kind of things. You know, and there's a lot, I mean, this is like, not a lot of people talk about this. And a lot of this is like a drummer's, you know, it's a drummer's job, but also, you know, producers and obviously composers, you know, will have a large say in this kind of thing. But, you know, what is the vibe of the intro and like, what are we trying to do on the first verse and then for the first chorus versus the second or third chorus, you know, are they the same in energy? Does, you know, is the third chorus supposed to be more energy? And if so, like, how do we, you know, set that up? You know, when is the best time to play fills? You know, because playing in the studio versus playing live, you know, I spent a long time like trying to like figure out the difference between those two. And really just years and years of listening to music and kind of analyzing, you know, what makes, you know, the song what it is, you know, I mean, there's so many hits, you know, over the decades. I mean, pre-internet, you know, actual hits that were successful because they resonated with people, because people liked them, people wanted to hear them over and over and over. And so surely there's a reason for it. It's not a random thing, you know. And so what is it about this tune, you know, and how does the drumming contribute to that? You know, that's something that I'm kind of fascinated with. And, you know, when I was younger and into busy drumming, and I'm into busy drumming now, but I can also appreciate like a super simple tune. You know, there's a lot of music that I thought was stupid when I was young, and now I love that stuff. You know, sorry, just making sure we're still okay here with the chat. I think we are. Just kind of refreshing here. Yeah, we're good. I think we're good. Chat. Okay. Yeah, so again, like talking about coming up with drum parts and stuff, I mean, I would just recommend you have to become a music expert. It's not just about drumming. Drumming's just part of it. It's like half of it, if that. You're literally like, if someone hires you to play drums on a song, you're getting hired as a music expert. And people don't seem to realize that. And so what does that mean exactly? I mean, there's no school that'll do that. You know, that's just, and I don't want to come like, oh, I know what that is. I don't know what that is exactly, but I do know that that's what's required. You know what I mean? And so you have to be familiar with the language. And so when someone says like, hey man, I kind of want like a Don Henley thing on this verse, but like on the chorus, I need like the hard hitting Liberty DeVito stuff, you know, like I know what that means, you know? And so that's just one example, you know, and understanding, you know, the drumming of those guys and what they, you know, what they contributed, the kind of energy that they bring, you know, the drum sound, like, oh, I want like a big fat Myron Grombacher from Pat Bennett. Like I want that snare sound versus, you know, like the, you know, a real dry kind of fat, you know, 80s ballad sound, you know, from a Foreigner hit or something, you know, like, you know, those are things that I'm kind of fascinated with, actually. And I would recommend becoming an expert in those kind of things and speaking it as a language. And so that when you're talking to someone who's trying to make music, you can help them make the music that they want to make. And all of that assumes that you can just play whatever's required, right? Which is like, I haven't talked about drumming at all in that whole spiel. That just assumes, oh yeah, I can just play whatever you want. You want this cool like tom-tom tune with my left hand on the hat or what? Like you want this like, you know, cross stick on 2 but the backbeat on 4? Like sure, it's no problem. The drumming part you want to be able to, yeah, it's no problem. That's what you want. You know, the challenge is like is coming up with the idea and sticking to it. That's the other thing. You know, we talked about playing live versus playing in the studio, and it's like, you know, when you play, it's a perfect example. Like playing live, you play a crash cymbal like every 4 bars, every 2 bars. It's very common. You know, drummers give in to their natural tendencies when they play live. You know, you play in a studio, you listen to like, you know, hits from decades like there. And I noticed too, because there actually is some songs where the drummer will kind of play like in a live style where it's like a crash every 4. And I notice, I'm like, ugh, you know, like get some discipline. There's no need to play a crash. Just play, you know, at the beginning of the verse, maybe. And you're going in the chorus, all right, play a crash. Play, you know, it's time to play a fill, play a crash. You know, but like science it out. Like come up with the part and stick to the part. Don't just play like, everyone has a natural tendency. Of course, you sit down, you play the drums. Your brain's just going to start shoveling you ideas. You know, after 2 bars, after 4 bars, you're going to play like a little thing, a little nuanced thing. You know, there's a lot of drummers that just, you know, there's some big name drummers that they just can't shut up. They can't not play something after 4 bars, you know, because they're, you know, whatever, they're big name and no one calls them out on that stuff. You know, and then there's other guys like, you know, whatever, you listen to Steve Gadd and it's like Steve Gadd, he's getting into bar 4. Boom, guess what? We're at bar 5 and he hasn't played a thing. That's hard. I love that stuff. And there's tons of people that are like, oh, I'm so inspired by Gadd, and they don't do that stuff, you know? You know, lately when I'm streaming and playing stuff, I try to, I'm like, you know, there's a section where I'll just shut up and just try to play a groove. It's hard. And that assumes the groove is a good groove that feels good, you know? It's crazy. Anyway, so that's my spiel on you know, coming up with drum parts and whatever. All right, we're scrolling through the comments here. Sorry, because I'm getting lost in the feed. Yesterday I had the chance to go to a concert with Gergo Borlai, says Alexander Morgan. Dude, Gergo. Gergo's one of my favorite drummers of all time. I love Gergo. I love his drumming. I want to give him a big hug. I've seen Gergo a number of times. I took a lesson with Gergo. There's a video on my channel dedicated to breaking down one of my favorite licks of his. I actually played the lick today. You know, I call it the Gergo Borlai limb breaker. You know, let me see if I can do it. Let's demonstrate the Gergo Borlai limb breaker really quick. Man, it has been a minute since I've played that, and you can hear like me tense up when I play that lick, because I find it challenging to kind of check the hi-hat like while we play that lick, and it's a group of 9. It's a group of 9 to 16, so stack it to destu, stack it to dextu, stack it to destu, stack it to destappers, that kind of thing. But he just plays it so fast, and it's awkward. That lick is so awkward; it just feels awkward to play, and so. But I like how it sounds too. That's the thing. I like the kind of. It's this kind of off-putting, choppy, this kind of weird thing that I think sounds cool. So yes, congratulations on going to a gig with Gergo. I'm jealous. Hey Steve, great track and playing. You got really nice flow, says Gino. Maybe you can touch on that and how you developed it. On another note, what in-ears do you use? We talked about the in-ears earlier, using the short in-ears. Hey, Will Plout is here. Will with the GHOOSH. The GHOOSH is the floor time and the China together. Except I don't have a China, I have an Azuka. Right, let's do it. All right, well, let's fine. I'll do a GHOOSH just for you. Let's do a GHOOSH, okay? That was funny. Love the good boots, right? We get that from Vinnie. Yeah, Vinnie is like, he plays the GHOOSH all over, and he it's funny because I don't think a lot of people notice, and I would all but guarantee that he's just like giggling, because it's a cool thing. There's that unplugged recording he did with that Spanish singer, and man, he is GHOOSHing all over that thing. It's bananas. Love Vinny, love the GHOOSH. Let's see. Gino says, thanks for answering the in-ear question. Yes, of course. Omar says, I will try the triplet. Yes, try it. It's awesome. Hey, Salty on Twitch, who left this comment a while ago. Sorry, we don't get a lot of folks from Twitch. We're streaming to Twitch and Facebook and YouTube right now. And the kids don't really watch me on Twitch, but when someone shows up, it's a big deal. So Salty, thank you. Salty Blacksmith, how are you doing today? He says, I'm doing great, Salty. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I need to go back to the chat view, right? Boom. See, we've got all kinds of interesting things up our sleeve here. Let's see, singing in time and the accent. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, it's all about singing phrases, in time. It's all about that. Let's see, Sam Wall says, hey, Steve, you're the man like always. Love the rudiment stuff, and I've been trying to implement that stuff during fills. Any tips on not throwing off the band during more advanced ideas? Yes, if you're throwing off the band, then you should tap the brakes. Or, the thing with, like, I don't know, if you're playing it, advanced kind of phrasing, or even not advanced phrasing, and if you're throwing off the band, that means the band is losing the time, or they're not feeling what you're playing. Someone gets lost, they're not feeling what you're playing. That's what that is, right? And so it's possible to play advanced things and kind of spoon feed the time a little bit, right? Checking the hi-hat, while doing that stuff, making sure that the accents are supposed to spell out the phrase, And a lot of the phrasing that I like, and a lot of the phrasing that I'm into that you hear me playing here is like, it's all very busy, but it's all accent based, if you hear me playing like, super busy, if you notice, it's a lot of soft, fast notes, and the accents are very simple. But it sounds like, I'm filling in all those notes, but the accents spell out the time, and so if you're losing folks, then just, either have a conversation with them, make sure that you're playing in time, and just get that quarter note going on the hi-hat, play something different, or have a conversation, and bring a recording and be like, hey, what's going on here? You know, I kind of like this fill, and sometimes, if the circumstances are right, you can use that as an opportunity to enlighten other musicians to the rhythmic concept of what you're doing. It's possible the musicians are not hip to you know, really what it sounds like if you continually go, you know, play, you know, 4/3 and you're doubling everything. You know what I mean? Just tell them like, hey, you know, what's happening here is you know, right? And they might be like, oh, okay, you know, and they could sing it. And a lot of times when I do that, you know, when that's happened to me, you know, musicians are often, they really enjoy that stuff because most of the time musicians like busy drum stuff. They just think it's cool, in my experience, you know. You know, depending upon who you're dealing with, obviously, but and if they, you know, get a step closer to understanding that busy stuff, then chances are they're going to actually like that. And so if you're like, you know, you could actually pretend like, not pretend, but approach it like you're excited about this thing and present it, instead of being like, hey, you need to understand, you'd be like, oh, check out this cool thing I just learned. It's this dotted 8 thing, but it sounds super busy. And, you know, you can explain it and like, you know, take away the doubles maybe and just play the accents. You know, 4 on the floor always helps a whole lot. You know, when you're spelling out a phrase, you just stomp the quarter note, you know, and play the accents and then take away the quarter note and play that fill, but like the busy version. And maybe they'll feel like, oh yeah, I can hear it now. You know what I mean? I remember there was this keyboard player in this rock band I was in the 90s. And I I got him hip to like this metric modulation thing, you know, playing eighth note triplets and you know, putting a rest basically on every 4th eighth note triplet, right? So the phrase is like da 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 da, right? But if you take away the quarter note, it just sounds like this: da 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 da. Like the time is deceptive on that if you don't know where the quarter note is. And so I explained that to him, and he got to the point where almost, you know, every solo he would play that phrase. He'd be like, and then I would join him, you know, and then we would both do this big huge quarter note on one, boom, and everyone would go crazy. They would love it, you know what I mean? So sometimes, you know, you can bring folks into that, and then it becomes a thing that you do together. That was my friend Pierre. We played in this rock band called Joe King. And then it was called Fuse, and we played this kind of up-tempo funk tune, and he was like we had a lot of fun doing that stuff, actually. So that, talking about, you know, playing advanced phrasing and like losing the band and that kind of thing, and what to do in those situations. Let's see, where did you learn to mix drums, says Luke's 234. I mix drums. Oh, man, you know, I did some research, you know, I forget, there was a book that I bought. I only got into like recording and engineering like within the last, say, 5 years. And it's not because I was passionate about it. I'm passionate about a good drum sound, but I'm not passionate about like engineering. You know, it's just a tool. It's just a means to get a good drum sound. And I'm interested in it from that standpoint. And I also was just uncomfortable with the amount of ignorance that I have with just recording and engineering in general, you know, because when you're talking to people, you don't want to not know what they're talking about when they're talking about compression or EQ or that kind of thing, you know. And so I wanted to just kind of learn, you know, in that aspect. But also, like, you know, as technology became more available and people were, you know, doing kind of like drum mixes, really good drum mixes at home on YouTube videos, that's where I was like, okay, I got to get this happening. And so I did some research. I actually I took a lesson with an engineer. You know, I kind of paid him to kind of like have a conversation with him, and I just watch tons of videos on YouTube, you know. And after a while, you just weed out the crap. You know, it's just for drums in particular. Like I have a very particular sound that I'm going for, and this is not even it really. It's just, you know, it's not it. But for the snare and the toms and the cymbals and the overall mix, I you know, particular things that I'm going for that may not necessarily work like in a song. You know, this drum mix that you hear here may not work for like a recording with, but that's not its intention. It's intended to be like it's just me here by myself, and so I want the drums to sound big and punchy and powerful and snappy and that kind of thing. So I just did a lot of research, you know, and learned the importance of compression and EQ, basically. and you know, the overhead mics needing to be the same distance from the snare, you know, and things being at a phase and that kind of thing, you know. Rick Beato, you know, obviously very popular on YouTube. He's got some, you know, videos just about like compression and drum mix and that kind of thing. Man, what is the name of that drummer? He's actually a guy I know. He has a popular YouTube channel with a video series called Study the Greats. Austin Burcham. Yes, check out Austin's video. Austin is like king of the gear and like the drum mix, and he's got a great, you know, series of videos on like just mixing drums, and that was actually very helpful to me. And of course, trial and error, just over the years, recording stuff with bands and myself, and just throwing yourself against the wall over and over until it doesn't suck. Really. So that's where I learned about drum mixing and engineering. Let's see. Sam Walsh, interesting distinction made between live and studio drumming. Yes, I agree, although I could be completely wrong about that. Christian Levy says, talking about new gear, can you give a tour of your audio and video setup? I can try. I just switched things around. And I'm hesitant to kind of move. I'm talking into a laptop here. The laptop is driving, you know, the software that does the real-time recording. Behind me is a desk. I'll try to show the desk. You know, this is an Apollo Twin X that does the real-time drum processing. And this is just a simple, you know, mic preamp that's going optical into this and sending 8 digital channels, you know. And then Apollo's software does the mixing. You know, the Apollo unit is really the key to everything because it's basically a computer. It's got a processor and a bunch of RAM, and you can set up individual channels and set effects on each channel. And there's very little latency, which was key because we're doing this live, right? Like I'm streaming live right now. And so I wanted to do that instead of making videos that were edited. Excuse me a moment. My wife is calling, so I'm going to mute this for a second. Ooh, that was my wife. Apparently someone tried to shoot at Donald Trump again or something. I don't know. He was on a golf course and someone was shooting. I don't know. We're talking about drumming here, so let's not worry about stuff like that for the moment. Yeah. So yeah, we were giving a tour of the setup. That's pretty much it. The camera that I'm talking to now is the camera on the laptop, and behind me is the it's an old iPhone 10 camera. Boom. This is an old iPhone. And I'm using OBS to stream. If folks aren't familiar with OBS, you know, that's OBS right there. You can easily switch cameras and switch audio sources with OBS. I would encourage folks to do that. Anyone that wants to get into streaming, OBS is the obvious choice. And I'm also using a service called Restream, which allows you to send a stream, and what Restream does is it distributes it to various streaming services that you have an account with. So Restream is actually sending this to YouTube and Twitch and Facebook for me, and I find that valuable. It's like a couple bucks a month. It's great. It's a great service. So, I mean, there's a fair bit involved, and you got to wrestle with technology, but it's worth it because, you know, it's an incredible opportunity to play live for folks from the comfort of your house with decent sound and talk about drums and teach people literally. But speaking of that, like I said, I don't have a Patreon, so if folks are interested in contributing financially, that would be great and appreciated. There's a link in the description. It's like linktree.com/Steve Holmes. Whatever you click that, it'll give you a bunch of options. So please continue to support, and we'll buy more cameras and we'll keep the good thing going here. Okay. Let's see. Home psychologically manipulation people in learning. Love it. super angry snowman. Sorry, I need to switch to the chat view here. Totally off topic here, but do you have a feeling about Weckl's various stages as a player? I went down an 80s Weckl rabbit hole the other day, and I remembered that whole phase of his. Man, I can talk about that all day. All day. Maybe we'll do that next time. You know, I'd love to just, I mean, I know Dave casually. You know, I've taken several lessons with Dave. I've hung out with Dave many times at shows of his. I had the opportunity to actually teach at this drum camp years ago that he was a part of. Yes, so, you know, a casual acquaintance, I think I'm comfortable saying. And I would love to just interview Dave on here and like cue up some old classic Weck tunes. And the thing about interviewing heroes, you know, is especially guys that have been around a while. That's the thing. Dave has been around a long time. And so I always want to geek out with old tracks and be like, dude, remember this? And they'll be like, no. No, I don't. I don't remember. And I, you know, I put myself in the shoes of folks, you know, that because I've played on things 20 years ago. And if someone was like, Steve, that thing you played on that video 20, I'll be like, what? I have no idea. You know, if I watched it, you know, and so that would actually be cool to play some tracks. You know, there's like that old Steve Kahn record that I love. I'd love to geek out with him about that, you know, obviously, like, you know, recordings that were significant to me in my formative years, like when I first discovered Dave, and it was a game changer. You know, because we got like the Back to Basics VHS and stuff. I'm Gen X, right? I'm 52. So this was like 88, 89. You know, when I was on to Neil Peart and Alex Van Halen, and I'd heard like Eye of the Beholder, you know, from Chicory Electric Band, and I was like, whoa, this guy's playing some really slick, cool stuff. And then I got the Back to Basics video, and that was it. I was like, okay. I forgot all about my rock stuff, and I just moved on to like Dave and Chicory Electric Band, and then that opened the floodgates to everything else. To other fusion, to traditional bebop, to Miles, to Elvin, to Coltrane, to Max, all the stuff. It just opened the floodgates. And I've been there ever since, you know. And I still go back, obviously. Like, I love listening to, you know, like I always say, a craving for one cannot be satisfied by the other, you know, when you're comparing things, you know, whether it's music or movies or whatever. So if I'm in the mood to hear, like, you know, the Camera Eye from Rush, you know, then the most swinging Elvin stuff is not going to cut it. You know, everything has its thing that it's good for, you know. So Ryan Cox is freaking out right now. He's like, what, you know Dave, get him on here. Yeah, I mean, I would love to geek out with Dave and play some recordings and talk to him about that. I mean, and it's funny because, you know, the recordings back then that, you know, that were literally miles above what anyone else was doing. Like Chicory Acoustic Band Alive, you know, there was a CD, there was a VHS tape, and kind of still to this day, like the level of drumming on there in terms of like flow and soloing, it's like, it's kind of like there's not a lot of guys that can approach that level. And I remember mentioning that recording to Dave like years ago, and he was like, oh man, that's crap. And I'm like, oh. I mean, he didn't say the word crap, but I remember him being like, oh no, you know, because it was pre-Gruber, and I guess everything pre-Gruber for Dave, he's just like, he doesn't want to have anything to do with it, because Dave's progressive. That's the nature of great, amazing, pioneering players, is they are progressive. They move on. They don't look back. That's the nature of all things pioneering, and not even limited to music. You know, whatever. All the great inventors, all the great, you know, whatever field you're talking about, the greats in that field, they're all like that. Most people that achieve that level of success and innovation, they all have that in common. You know, they don't like to look back. They don't like to reminisce. You know, John Carmack, he's an amazing game programmer. He's like that. You know, these guys, like whatever, Bill Gates, you know, Elon Musk, like like I'm talking about pioneer, like Weckl is kind of the Elon of drumming, you know, or used to be. I mean, he certainly still has that veteran, you know, status, but there was a long time where like he just stood alone. No one could come close. It's kind of crazy. And in some regards, it's still the case. Orchestrating drum parts, you know, orchestrating like figures on it. No one comes close. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw Dave. I think it was at the Catalina Bar and Grill with Mike Stern or something. I don't know. You know, or Chicory Electric Band. He used to live close to here when he lived in LA. He lived close to this area, but then he moved, which is not confidential information. That's public info. He moved to St. Louis. He plays in that area now because I guess that's where he's from. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, love Dave and love that era. And so I can just talk about that all day. But that Back to Basics and Next Step videos, whoo, man, game changers. Ryan says the Alive album changed my life. Yeah, I remember like in 1990, like, you know, I talked about that on the last stream. Like I used to walk around with a portable compact disc player in my jacket and just headphones on 24 hours. And there would be like a rock CD and like a jazz CD and something else. And it was like acoustic band Alive and like Queensryche Empire. I was all about that, recording for a minute. Not so much because of the drumming. I just liked that music, you know. And Dream Theater Awake, I remember listening to a lot back then. Again, not because of the drumming, but mostly because of just the music I thought was really cool. Yeah, good stuff. This is fun. Geeking out. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. Sorry, someone asked about flow, and that's just like a huge, you know... I can't open the floodgates on that topic right now. Maybe next time we'll talk about flow and like what that means and recommend some things to get that happening. So yeah, I think we're gonna call it here. Thanks for the hang. Thanks for hanging out with me. My name is Steve Holmes. We're streaming live from Los Angeles, September 15th, 2024. See you guys next time.